Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the Student Hub Live Refreshers Orientation event. So this is to welcome new students to the Open University and also to inspire and excite current students, and also it's a space for you to give the new students advice. I bet you remember when you started studying how excited you were and how much there is to know. And in this event, we try to demystify some of that learning experience and again inspire you so that you're all set to start your studies. Now, my name's Karen and I'll be hosting this session, and for those of you who haven't been to the Student Hub Live before, welcome. You should be experiencing an interface that has got some chat functionality, so you can type messages. You might want to say where you are, which module you're studying. You might want to talk about what you've had for breakfast or what you're planning to have for lunch. Anything goes in the chat, and that will all be fed in from our hot desk. Fed in, yeah, not literally, but by HJ and Co, who are going to be communicating all of your comments and questions to our panel. Now, you'll also see that there are these lovely colourful things that we like you to vote on as well. And these interactive tools will tell us things like, for example, now, where you are. And you might want to let us know where you are, how you're feeling, which level you're studying, with which faculty you're studying. So all that you do to tell us those things is to click on the widget that you'd like to vote on, press which aspect applies to you, and then submit, and then your results will send. And then you can also see what everyone else thinks. The other thing that you can do is when there is a word cloud, and this is where there are 3 options, you can put words into those, but they won't submit unless you put 3 things in. And if you can only think of 1 or 2, that is absolutely fine, but you need to put a full stop or a cross or something in those other boxes so that your results can be incorporated into our lovely word cloud. And we'll show those in the session. They're a really useful thing that we like to include. So there's all of that, but there's also Twitter. Our handle is @StudentHubLive and our hashtag is StudentHubLive18, so you can send us your thoughts, your study spaces, etc. And we have an email that we keep an eye on regularly, and that is studenthub@open.ac.uk. So if there's something you'd like to ask, but maybe you feel a bit shy, then do email us and we will get back to you. And some of the things we've been asking people to email us is that lovely moon last night that Professor of Planetary Geosciences Dave Rothery was telling about us in the quiz yesterday. And HJ, I believe we've had a couple of people sending in some lovely moon pictures.
Yes, I know. I was really excited to see this one. Someone going by the handle OU Law Student has sent us this lovely picture of the night sky with the big supermoon that's been out there. So that was really nice to see, and I'm going to put that on my board along with all the study tips that we're going to have today. So if you've got a lovely moon picture from last night, or maybe a picture of what the view is from where you are today, or a study tip that you want to send in, I'd love to hear it. So send it through the chat or through our email, studenthub@open.ac.uk. I'd love to hear it, but I'm just having some fun chatting to everyone this morning. We had Kevin was the first one in today, so he's going by the early bird catches the worm, but I don't know why, because worms are quite disgusting. But Hiroshini is first time joining us today, so welcome. It's great to see you here. If you are new, just say hello. We're a friendly bunch. We may seem like we all know each other, but we're just that friendly that as soon as you join in, you're part of the community. And Kimberly's asking if I've got any interest in hats today. Well, someone's taken away my hat box, but she votes for sombrero for the next one, so we'll see what we can do. But yeah, anything goes. Our guests love all the thoughts, comments and questions that you have. So if there's anything you want me to put to our guests in the studio, I'd love to do that for you.
Well, if you like hats, then you should definitely join us at 6 o'clock tonight, where the Open programme are going to be having a debate with many academics across the university about whether a specialist degree is better than a non-specialist degree. And they will be wearing lots of hats during that session. If you like moons or other round things in the sky, then Dave and some PhD students are coming to give us a talk about some planets. So that'll be really interesting, whether you're studying science or not. But today we've got a great programme lined up for you. We're going to be talking about how we support students with some of our colleagues from our student support team. We'll be talking about access as well, which I'm really looking forward to. We have a session on working with your tutor, and we've had lots of questions coming through about that. And Dave Healy's going to talk about how to make the most of that really special relationship with your tutor. Then we're going to do some IT issues. So Rob Moore is going to come along and show us things like what the VLE, the virtual learning environment, looks like. He's going to show us how you can book onto tutorials and also what a tutorial is like. And then at lunchtime, you can go into that room and talk to Rob, and he's going to show you things. You can ask any questions using your microphones and that. So that'll be really exciting and give you a lovely flavour of what tutorials are like at the Open University. He's also going to show you how to submit your ETMA, something that we're all very concerned about and interested in. It's really easy to do, so that will hopefully be useful and interesting. We then are going to focus on Open University students, and we're going to have some guests representing the disabled students group. Then, in a very optimistic way, we're going to talk about studying around the holidays. We were talking yesterday a little bit about study intensity, and indeed that's a session a bit later in the day. But for some students, you'll be picking up modules now. Some of you might be continuing. Some of you may have them overlapping. But it's very likely that there will be some sort of festival that will get in the way of your plans to take some time out and study. And we're going to talk about some strategies that you can use to plan that time effectively. We're also going to be talking about the National Student Survey, really important thing. A selected number of you, often nearing the end of your qualification, will be asked to vote on that, and we really, really do value your input. So we're going to explain how important that is. So if you've received something, please do let us know what you think about that. And also, if you would like to find out more, then that session will be on at 3 o'clock today. So we asked how you were feeling, and let's take a look at what everybody said at home. Happy, excited, optimistic, great to get involved, undecided, motivated, constipated, oh dear, anxious, have a cold, good to go, etc. Well, we did eat a lot of food yesterday during the Student Hub Live, didn't we? In particular, I think Gillian, is she here today again?
I haven't seen Gillian as of yet, but if she has joined us in the chat, I'd love to see her. But Dave has given me an interesting fact about the moon. He says the moon is always lovely. I think we'd all agree with that. And he says it doesn't really look any more special during a so-called supermoon. In fact, there's more to see when the moon's not full because all the terrain is revealed by shadows. So I think along with a few other people, we're going to sign up for the Moon's Moot to find out about all this lovely terrain on the moon.
Excellent. All right, well, let's crack on, because in our first session, we're going to be talking about support for students, very front of mind. You may know, if you watched yesterday, that there is so much support out there, and who to triage it all better and point you in the right direction than our student support team. We have Frank and Stephen. Welcome, Frank and Stephen. You're also going to be manning the hot desk, so our students are going to be able to ask you questions at any time of day, and you can point them in the right direction. But we do have some questions that I think students would like to know about. Yesterday, we focused on STEM and what the STEM SST can do for students. And again, STEM students often, because of their study patterns and sometimes that they're using microscopes in Tenerife and all sorts of various technologies, have slightly different needs. But we're hoping that even though you work in the Faculty of Law and Business, that you can tell us about generically what students can expect. So what is your role, and how do you both help students?
Well, I'm an educational advisor at Open University, so in the student support team, we're going to have with senior advisors and educational advisors. We both specialise in the areas of support we offer our students. Always say to students, if there's anything that you want to ask, maybe you don't feel comfortable speaking to your tutor, or you just want to see what support's there, there's an awful lot of support, and it's a shame when students don't really see that support or know it's there. So, but between us, both our roles is just making sure that we offer our students the maximum level of support that we can.
So how does your day look? What happens?
Well, it varies. I mean, we receive inquiries in a number of different ways. So we might get an inquiry through email. We might get something through the telephone, which is triaged by student recruitment. That might come in. And then we decide from there whether or not it would be dealt with by somebody like me, who's a senior advisor, or perhaps in more complex cases, if a student has particularly challenging difficulties, then an educational advisor such as Frank will step in and either support me as a senior advisor or will take over. But either way, we are the next line of support next to a tutor, really.
Oh, good. There's a lot of love for your hat, HJ. Unlike yesterday, which is good. And I think Lee's in the chat as well, isn't he?
I know Lee's joined us from the student support team as well. Lee joined me on the desk before, so he's very adept at answering all your great questions that you have as well about anything student support related. I have heard there's a slight issue with the volume, but we are working on it, so thanks for letting us know. And Iroshini has let us know that She says, it seems I'm the only person from the Asian region, so if there's anyone else in that area, say hello as well. We'd love to know.
What time is it over there? Because
That's
some
a good
people
point.
stay up at very late or early times of day, I've noticed. To
Yeah.
tune in.
So let us know what time it is. And it says, I'm from Sri Lanka studying the MA in online and distance learning. So it's great to have you here. And I know a few other people in the chat yesterday were studying the MA. So it would be great to share your experiences and let us know if you're just starting or you're partway through and how you're getting on with that.
Excellent. Well, that's wonderful to hear. Okay, so your day then, I'm trying to get to grips with this because we're going to show students a video of where you work because I think that can really help visualise things. But you're open at student-friendly hours, not perhaps in the middle of the night when colleagues in Australia might want to speak to you, but you do have some really nice flexible hours, don't you? What times of day can students get in touch?
Monday to Friday. You can contact us from 8 until 8 and 9 to 5 on a Saturday. If you can't reach us by telephone, that's absolutely fine. You can go onto your student homepage and you can submit an inquiry online, and that will be dealt with in exactly the same way as it would as if you were going to call in. But we recognise that some students, particularly those students from overseas who can't necessarily call in, they can always contact us just by email or again via their student homepage.
Now, what sorts of things do students come to you about? I mean, help. I mean, I want lots of help with lots of things. But until somebody says, oh, I can help you find out how to turn your out of office on or this, that and the other, you never quite know what's available. So what sort of things do students typically come to you with? And Frank, you mentioned, that some students don't come to you. What sorts of things should they be coming to you with?
I mean, sometimes you may get a student, particularly if it's a new student, maybe a little bit apprehensive approaching their tutor about something, and that's quite understandable if you're new, if you're unclear of the boundaries. So contact us, whether it's an email or pop us, have a chat with us. There's lots of support there, and so, especially for new students in their first year of study, it'd be a shame not to know what support's there. So if you don't feel comfortable speaking to your tutor, just pop us an email or we will often say if it's academic related, speak to your tutor, but sometimes we can probably help ourselves here at the SST.
Because sometimes it can, we think some of these systems are really intuitive, and when you've been studying, I'm sure everyone at home will agree, when you've been studying for a while, you get used to the hang of things. You go, that's really easy to do. I know where that is. I know what a study planner is. But for some students, it's all really, really new, and sometimes they might not know what a study planner is, even though it's called study planner, and when you think, oh no. But it's those sorts of things that I think can really be barriers sometimes for students. Can they talk to you about things like that in the sense of, I just can't figure out where this is? Do you help them navigate?
I mean, signposting is a huge part of what we do because within the student homepage, you've got the help centre and the raft of support, policies, everything there is for your study skills, careers guidance, everything's there. So sometimes it is just signposting people, but we often get feedback and it's a massive help to some students. I mean, whether it's study skills, if you're writing essays or referencing, these things that can be a bit tricky. There's so much resource there, but signposting is a massive part of what we do. We can even sort of recommend pages on the homepage, so all you've got to do is log in once we've recommended it for you. So we try and make it as easy as we can to signpost that information.
That's quite common, isn't it, Frank?
Yeah.
That students come in to us and they just feel very overwhelmed. A lot of the feedback I get is that they're really excited about starting, but equally they're quite nervous as well. Some students may have not studied for quite some time, several years in fact, and beyond. And so it does require that a suite of skills is developed to help students succeed throughout their academic journey, and we can help them and signpost, as Frank said, and just be there to listen to these problems. That's the key thing for us. We really want to listen to students and find out what their real concerns are, and then just address each one as it comes, on a step-by-step basis. And so hopefully, by the end of it, the outcome of the call is they can go away feeling a bit more prepared, and just address those skills and hopefully improve those skills to help them succeed.
Yeah, because I think it's a really common thing. Sometimes you can feel so overwhelmed, you almost don't know where to start. And, if someone was to say, what is the problem? Sometimes you just don't know. You're just like, I just feel so overwhelmed. I don't know what... My problem is my TMA. I don't know what to do. And that can involve, like you say, a whole range of things that sometimes talking to somebody about can help you sort of identify the steps and maybe locate some of those problems. So is what you do, to some extent, helping people to, I guess, clarify and identify what the problems are and help to get strategies for what then to do?
Exactly that.
I was going to say, our role essentially, I feel, is to help students make informed decisions, because sometimes there's no wrong, there's no right decision. It's just the most informed decision, and whether that's be just discussing a policy or just discussing your study or the issue at hand, we can really help students make the best decision, the most informed decision for them. Like with time management, just to quickly touch back on that, we can really help students there with time management, discipline, and put things in place, but ultimately make studies successful.
Now, how can you help them with this? Because I know from bitter experience that you can look on the OU website and you can find loads and loads of stuff. I mean, time management, for example, there's so much content out there, and sometimes it's difficult to know, especially if you are time poor, what might be a useful intervention and what might be a good thing to look at. How do you direct students to appropriate resources for them? Is it by listening to sort of what they need, and maybe do you have a list of things that could be useful? I mean, you mentioned study skills as well, Stephen.
Absolutely, yeah, we have a whole range of things that we can draw upon, and really valuable resources, all of which are available to the student. So the student has access to a help centre, which is just a plethora, if you like, of really useful information. Particularly, there's some good sections on time management. And I will always signpost a student to there as their first port of call, just to become familiar with some of the basic skills associated with time management. Right down to planning exactly how much time a student has in their day, because what we often find, and I speak to quite a lot of students, and I often find that it's very easy to overestimate the amount of time you're going to have available to study. And that can cause problems, and we don't want that to happen. So if we can address that in the early stages, a student is hopefully going to be far more likely to be successful on their current module.
I mean, if you study full time, we're talking 32 hours a week study, aren't we? And in part time, 8 to 16 hours, and that's a lot of hours to find in the week. So, if you struggle there, as soon as you feel that you're struggling, give us a call, because whether it's just trying to put things in perspective, break things down, where can you find that time? There's tools and resources we can use to try and help that.
Yeah. And of course, time management's a very topical issue. We've done lots of Student Hub Live sessions on that, including some workshops that we did last week, where I actually picked up loads of really useful tips that I've been implementing, which has been really great, actually. So yeah, it's good to share ideas as well. So do check those out on the YouTube channel, and you can catch up from those on the website. Now, you mentioned this idea that I like to talk about, which is when things can get a bit much. So you can also help students if they want to look at changing direction, either up or down weighting some of their study plans. When might that happen, and are there sort of times that matter more than others in terms of things like fees or, submitting TMAs? What sort of things should students bear in mind in terms of, I guess, seeing how their study is going to be working for them and how manageable it is?
Oh, I mean, I would say the very first sign you get that you may be struggling, or you feel that something's becoming a challenge, whether it's too much work to do, or you're not going to meet the deadline, you're struggling, give us a call, because whether it's maybe speaking to your tutor, maybe trying to get an extension. I mean, sometimes, the students, an extension can help, just giving them that bit of extra time, and sometimes a student may not feel comfortable asking for an extension, so that's where we would come in. But whether it's signposting is a big thing we do, just sharing the resources that we have, Karen, because there's an awful lot there, and the amount of times we speak to students, and it's a shame that they didn't make contact sooner, because there was certainly support that we could have offered them at the time that may have helped them overcome that challenge. So
it's not really when you have a problem you need something to do about, it's when you have a problem maybe you don't know what to do about that it's a good time to contact. Absolutely. And then it sounds like there are a range of interventions that you can have that will help support students, and it's not always go and read this book or go and do this or have an extension. You really need to think about what's right for that student, because as we all know, extensions can be really good if you can get that time back. Otherwise, they can be something that's going to put more and more pressure as the grades get more and more substantial in terms of counting.
I mean, a good example, a student was struggling with referencing. Particularly for new students, getting to grips with Harvard referencing system isn't the easiest thing. Yeah. But a student made contact to the SST, and we signposted them to an online library. I mean, the library resources are amazing.
They are, yeah.
They had an online session that's similar to this, where it was someone introducing referencing and going through referencing, and the student then came back and they found that extremely helpful, getting on top of the referencing, just having that resource, not just watching the video as well as reading the resources that we can provide.
I think I would, just to follow on from what Frank is saying, I think the first thing I would say to students is don't panic. It's really important not to panic. And if it came to potentially looking at withdrawing from a module or changing your study intentions in general, we would always try and explore what other avenues were available before we did that. And sometimes just providing some reassurance, a student is not alone. Lots of other students go through this all the time. The first reaction from a student I often hear is, that's it, I want to throw the towel in, I can't do this. Just spending some time with us on the phone to address these concerns, address these questions that they have that are causing them to feel like this, can change it around. And by the end of it, they're raring to go again, and they get stuck in and succeed on their module. So, whilst there are potentially academic and financial implications if a student were looking to defer or withdraw from their module. As time goes on, those particularly financial implications are likely to increase. It's something we would always look at as a last resort.
I mean, if I can just touch on the financial side, I mean, if a student was affected by any personal circumstances, and it was going to have a financial effect on their study, sometimes again give us that call, because there's policies, there's procedures that we can probably suggest to that student to try and minimise the effect of that financial implication. So even in that sense, that we can try and offer support to students.
Brilliant. Now I just want to touch, I'm glad you're staying all day actually, because we've got loads of questions that I'm sure we can cover in the chat. One thing I do want to touch on in this session, yesterday we were talking about studying with mental health difficulties, and we mentioned profiling and letting your student support team know of things that were either temporary or permanent, etc., that we may be able to adjust for. How do people do that, and do they speak to somebody as nice as you two about this sort of thing? And we'll be talking in more detail in our disabled students group session a little bit later more about this, but briefly, what is the process?
Well, we'd always ask students, ideally right at the start of your journey, to declare if you do experience any disabilities that may affect your study.
And are those diagnosed disabilities or just something that may impact?
Anything that may impact. I mean, ultimately, if you do experience a disability that will affect your, then we can offer you support right throughout your studies. If it's something that's, if you're just suffering from anxiety at the moment or depression, and you don't feel comfortable declaring that as a disability, still let us know, because you don't have to have it declared. Ultimately, to get support, we can still offer you support, whether it be adjustments to exams or additional time. It doesn't have to be a declared disability. We can build a case for certain adjustments, even without. But
I completely agree with Frank. And I think the one thing I would add, and I can draw upon a recent experience of speaking to a student who was terrified of telling us. They disclosed that they had a mental health, condition. And they were terrified of telling us for fear of being treated differently by whether that be by their peers or their tutor. And the one thing I would love to say at this point to students is, if you feel you'd like to tell us and you feel comfortable, do, because it will absolutely support you, and you will be treated as an equal, like every other student. I promised you, it will support students moving forward. The more we know, the better in able to, we can put support in place for those students.
I mean, we have a responsibility as well to make sure that every student has an opportunity to study successfully. So if you feel that your medical condition or disability, we have a duty to make sure that all students have an equal chance. So we will try and put in place whatever adjustments we can or support we can to make sure that all students have that equal chance.
And you do. You have such a range of amazing things, from people coming in and invigilating exams at home to, encouraging people to talk to their tutor before a tutorial, to think about that space and disabled parking. There's all these interventions that can make that. Exactly. There's so much. Well, I'm glad you're staying. So do put questions to Stephen and Frank, and indeed Lee, who's joining us remotely, in the chat if you'd like to know anything else. But thank you both for giving us a brief overview. We're going to take a look at where you work now, and we're going to show you a video of the student support team over the road. So take a look and see what happens over there, and meet some of the other advisors that you're likely to come in contact with if you are a student with the Open University Law School or the Open University Business School. But they're all really lovely, irrespective of which faculty you are in. So I'll join you after that video for some more live discussion where we're going to take a look at access with John and George. I'll see you in a few minutes.